Can't believe I'm saying this, but April is almost over, which means we're on to May, and with a new month comes a new season in Marvel Snap. This is the video where I'm going to be going through and discussing all the new cards coming out and saying whether I'm going to be using my hard-earned tokens on them or not. I think we're at actually a pretty decent spot in Marvel Snap right now. I think that OTA kind of revigorated a lot of people's enthusiasm for the game, and we'll see how that kind of shakes up over the next month or so. But let's not dwell too much on the past and let's look forward. Let's go take a look at the cards that are coming out this next month. So let's start with the Season Pass card. The Season Pass card for the month is Shadowlands Daredevil, and the Premium Season Pass card is Wilson Fisk. Shadowlands Daredevil is a 2/3. On reveal, shuffle in 3 demons when you draw a card with 6 or more power plus 2 power. I know a lot of people are really high on this card and they have some pretty big expectations for him. I'm on the fence about him, if I'm going to be honest. I think I generally stray away from cards that bulk up your deck a lot but don't have any, I guess, way to essentially create an additional draw. That's why I think I really enjoy Thanos, because the stones actually, they bulk up your deck but they allow you to draw more cards. And I stray away from things like Agamotto or the new Shang, because even with the new Shang, he's adding one more card into your deck. It just kind of feels like you're never able to draw the card that you like. Which, I mean, you can facilitate this with things like King Eitri. Let's say you throw Shadowlands Daredevil on the board, you have King Eitri out there, you ping him, you pull a demon out, that's an easy 1/6 play that you can make. Also, the demons are pretty good. Demons being 1/6 are never really necessarily a bad play, but unfortunately, I think they're going to struggle with some of the synergies that we already kind of have with demons that we like. For instance, Shadowlands Daredevil isn't going to work with Vicky Hand, which Vicky Hand is a fantastic, pairing with Hood, because Hood generates it in your hand, but the ones that Shadowlands Daredevil play, they're not going to get the Vicky Hand buff. So, I don't know. I really want to see, where he's going to fit in, where, kind of what his output is going to look like. I mean, for instance, he's a 2/3. You play him out on 2. You've got 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you've got 4 turns that you could potentially throw or draw a 6+ power card, essentially adding 8 power to him. He's a 2/11. We already have, a couple other 2 power cards or 2 cost cards that actually can put out a lot of power in Chamber and Moon Dragon. And it kind of just seems like we're getting a lot of these 2 cost cards that can end up having a lot of power on the board. And I think he's going to be a similar case. I'm just curious to see what kind of deck he's going to eventually fall into. I think the big bummer is a lot of people saw this and like, C6 is coming back, except except that Shadowlands Daredevil could ruin that, and he himself can't even get to 6 power, which I think is a giant bummer. Because you're going to go from 3 to 5 and then just straight to 7, and he's never going to be 6. So I'm actually really curious. Of course, it's a season pass card. I'm going to be picking it up. As always, like I said in every one of these videos, if you do end up getting the season pass, make sure you get it on the web shop so you get that free Series 5 pack. But overall, I'm really on the fence. I need to get my hands on him. I really do. I'm worried that him adding 3 cards to the deck is just going to make you draw demons when you're looking for something else. But we'll see. We'll see. I know I have been wrong before. No one can really actually predict these with total accuracy. But I'm really curious to see how he pans out and where he finds a home. Um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. The next card is, of course, Wilson Fisk. He's a 5/9, cost 3 if you have the highest power among cards in play. I think Wilson's a decent card. He's a good stat line if you can get him out for 3 costs. If you can't, 5/9 is honestly not great at all. I think that's the big thing, is whether you're going to be able to pull off getting his effect or not. I mean, a 3/9 is 1 power short of things like Starbrand, and Starbrand definitely has a lot of negatives to him. I think the card that I'm probably comparing him to most is probably Miles Morales, which Miles sees a lot of play. I mean, it's really nice being able to play him for 1 cost. He essentially comes out to a 1/6, and Wilson Fisk is going to come out to a 3/9. I think he's going to be paired really well with cards that you essentially want to win the lane on turn 3. Things like Iron Patriot, or your Adam Warlock. Of you throw something out there, you want to be winning that lane so you can get some effect from it. But the other side of that is you need to have the highest power on the board. So if you are playing an Adam Warlock, it may be hard to trigger Wilson Fisk. Iron Patriot, it may not, especially if you're running some 1 costs that have a lot of power, like the new updated Martyr, throwing out 6 power on turn, or yeah, 6 power on turn 1 into something like Iron Patriot. You have a cheap Wilson Fisk for the next turn. I think he's going to be a good stat line card. Is he going to be, insane? Probably not. I think he's a decent card. I don't think he's anything that's going to be like, oh wow, you need to have Wilson Fisk. But I could be wrong. Like I said, Miles Morales still sees a lot of play, mainly because he's really easy to trigger. It's going to be interesting to see if Wilson Fisk, on the other hand, is going to be easy, to get those triggers to get him down to a 3 cost. Because if it's into a sort of meta that's really heavy on the front end, which is kind of opposite of what we've been seeing for the past couple of months, it could be difficult to get him out at that point. You're not really going to feel good about playing a 5/9. But overall, I think there is going to be a place for him, especially maybe a little bit of synergy with the Punisher War Machine, which we'll be talking about here in a little bit. I think that if you could get him out on turn 3 because you drew Punisher War Machine on that turn, that could be a really good play. But overall, I think he's going to be a decent stat card, but nothing to really write home about. Let's move on. Also coming out on week 1 is Paige on May 5th. She is a 4/5. On reveal, give one of your 1, 2, and 3 cost characters plus 2 power each. I'm really, I mean, I don't have high hopes for Paige. I'm actually categorized kind of same in that same realm that I did Wolverine last month. I just think in where the game is sitting right now, even after the OTA and all these nerfs to all these big, strong, powerful cards, I don't think she brings enough. Even if you play a perfect curve, you've got a 1, 2, and 3 out on the board. She is essentially a 4/11, though she is an on reveal, so there are some shenanigans to essentially double that. But that's also if you're doing something with Wong, and at that point you're playing her on 5, and I guess at 5 that makes her a 4/17, which I mean at that point that's not too bad, but that's also a lot of buildup. Especially with what's the 1s, 2s, and 3s you've got out there that you're putting a Wong out on 4 and then her out on 5 to really make that into something that pops. I mean, maybe in a buff style deck, you've got Agony out there, you've got Lasher out there, you've got Captain Carter, but then you're using a ton. You're using your 4th and 5th turn to give each of them plus 4 power. To do what on 6? I mean, you're not filling up Captain Carter's lane. Essentially, I mean, yeah, you could brood and you could do other things, but I mean, it's a lot of work for. There's just better cards out there. there there's just better payoffs. I mean, yeah, she's essentially, I mean, she's a targeted Gwenpool a little bit, but I guess it really depends on whether you're going to be buffing stuff on the board or in your hand. And honestly, I think it kind of it's kind of hard for me because I love buff cards. I love Surfer. I actually make excuses to make Surfer decks because it's one of my top 3 archetypes. I absolutely love Surfer. This is a card that should go well into Surfer, but it doesn't. It just, I do not think that it brings enough power to actually, make it worthwhile. Especially if you miss anything on your curve. I mean, she immediately falls off. I mean, if you miss your 1 cost, you just have a 2 and 3, and you play her out there on 4. You're only adding 4 to the board. I mean, she's a 4/9. I don't think it's worth it, and it's unfortunate because I mean, I think that she is an interesting card. I like that it's targeted. Buff cards that target, I think, are fantastic. I just don't think she's bringing enough power. In my opinion, she may go the same way that Wolverine did last month. If he comes out with +2 to each lane, that's not enough. They end up bumping him up to +3, and that's kind of where I'm seeing that maybe Paige will go eventually. Is that the state of the game, even like I said, after all these OTAs and stuff, I think she may need to add a little bit more power to make the payoff worth it. But either way, I will be passing on Paige. Part of me is hoping I'm wrong because, like I said, I enjoy buff cards so much. But unfortunately, at this time, I just do not think she brings enough oomph to kind of make it worth spending 6,000 tokens on her. So moving on. For week 2, on May 12th, we have the release of Punisher War Machine, and then on May 14th, we have Aari coming in the Sanctum Showdown Surge. Punisher War Machine, which just thematically, what a sick card. I don't know when this happened in the comics, But I'm gonna have to look it up of when they gave Punisher the War Machine armor. But that is some cool art. But he's a 2/2 when drawn. Mark one of your empty locations. Objective: win that location +1 max energy. I mean, I don't think we even need to talk about how good we all know that giving max energy has been shown to just honestly in all of eternity. Marvel Snap. I think the big thing with this card is that you're going to want to draw him early. I mean, I guess drawing him late isn't a bad thing, but you're definitely, I mean, the earlier you draw him, the better. And on top of it, you're going to need to actually front load your deck a little bit with some, I guess, high powered, low cost cards. If you have him in your opening hand, you're going to want Hydra Bob. You're going to want something like Martyr. You're going to want a one cost that you can win that lane no matter what. I don't know if it's actually been confirmed about whether your opponent sees the objective or not. I, I think they need to, right? I think they kind of need to let your opponent know. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I'm pretty sure that they need to let your opponent know which lane he triggers, but we're going to find out. But either way, you have to have some strong early cards, which I think that's the other thing with cards that like to have more that ramp, that extra energy, is they usually kind of backload that. They have less low power cards up front and a lot more. That way you can get the bigger creatures out towards the end of your match. But he kind of is working that in the opposite direction of you need to have something to win this lane if he's in your starting hand. I think also, even as the game draws on, if you're hoping to draw him, are you leaving a lane empty? If you're leaving a lane empty, it's kind of an easy target for your opponent to be like, oh, well, they're just leaving this lane alone. I'm gonna throw some cards in that. So I think he's gonna be good. I think he's probably the card that most people are looking forward to this month. I really want to see him in practice. I want to see whether the opponent sees the objective. I kind of want to see the decks that he's falling into. And I guess, +1 max energy kind of fits into pretty much any deck. There are some decks that don't necessarily need it, but it's always nice. So I'm going to get him. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be a fantastic card. But I am kind of curious to see how some of his mechanics are actually going to work, not theoretically, but in actual practice. But I think he's going to be fantastic just because, as we have all seen, extra energy can be absolutely abused in this game. Next card coming out that week is Aari, who's a Series 4, 4/12. You can only play this where an enemy is afflicted with negative power. I mean, in all honesty, 4/12 is not a bad stat line. I know I did say that a 3/9 was kind of mid-tier back with Wilson Fisk, but I mean, at 12 power, you're kind of looking at some of the lower tiers, series, or not series, 6 costs at that point. I think my big thing with Aari is, I mean, he's a Series 4. He is coming in a limited time event. Where does he fit into? Where's his actually natural home? I mean, I think everyone's easily first thought is Affliction decks, but at that point, I'm like, who do you take out? Those generally run Anti-Venom and Laffy as the 4-cost cards. I mean, I guess you could throw in another one and have 3 4-costs, but I think Anti-Venom and Laffy just kind of add too much to that deck, essentially with synergies to really kind of replace one of them, especially with, I mean, Laffy may not get up to 12 power, but he at least is also boosting up Ajax as well. So, I mean, I think if you are missing something for an Affliction deck, he is probably an easy toss in, but I just think there's better cards in that deck to essentially pull that synergy together. The other side of the coin is there are a lot of other decks out there that are utilizing some sort of Afflict at this point in time. There was the Omega Sentinel decks floating around for the end of turn stuff. You've got Phantom X, you've got Lockheed. Scorpion High Evo is probably a fantastic one. That High Evo Affliction iteration, I think, being able to throw a 4/12 out is probably really pretty decent, but it's also, once again, what do you take out to throw that in there? I mean, he's more power than Abomination, but Abomination can be played for free if you do it right. I don't even think that even in the Afflict one they run She-Hulk anymore, but I mean, he could be tossed into that. He could be used in that deck just because he is a lot of power. But there are a ton of other decks, something that's using Lasher. I mean, if you have a buff deck with Lasher, being able to throw out a 4/12 is not necessarily a bad play to make. Things like Lockheed. Lockheed's at least throwing some negative out there. You have a 4/12 to be able to toss on the board. That's kind of, and that's a big swing in power on turn 4. But overall, he is a limited time game mode. He'll be very easy to get. So I'm excited to kind of play around with him and see what packages he does fall into the best. So excited for Aari. Um, I think he's just gonna be a decent card. Let's move on. Moving on to week 3, on May 19th, we've got Muse releasing is a 3/3 ongoing +3 power for each location where one of your cards has been destroyed. I know a lot of people are actually just really excited for Muse just by his character. His design, he definitely has an aura to him. Um, thematically, he's a cool character. My issue with him is that he's releasing it to an archetype that is already just flush with a ton of different options. And I don't hate them adding more options to an already established archetype in Destroy. But I guess my main concern with him is like, does he fit? Does he have a place in the Destroy package? And at this time I don't really know. I'm thinking that he's going to be a card that's not ran in your standard Destroy package. He's going to be run in other things. So for instance, I'm really curious how he's going to work with something like, maybe he'll be a good play to turn on turn 6 with, like, if you can get out an early Galactus. The other deck that kind of came to mind, and I don't think this thing has been meta relevant in 6 months. I could be wrong. I haven't seen it in a long time, but there was that Thanos destroy deck a long time ago that essentially, you play out all the stones, you destroy them with Killmonger, and then you could cheat out a, very cheap death. Um, Running things like Thanos and Mockingbird and Death, throw him in, then all of a sudden you've got a lot of power out there. And that's where I'm kind of leaning of where he fits into is a lot of those decks that essentially wants to play things like Squirrel Girl and a bunch of one cost Killmonger them, and then cheat out things like Death, and then eventually wrap it all up with whether you're not running Thanos or not, that even still gives Noel a lot of power to bring out onto the board. And I think that's where he's going to be in those hybrid Destroy decks, not necessarily full Destroy. Um, I think he's going to find a home. I'm wondering where it's going to be, because I think the role that he would fit into a standard Destroy deck's already kind of filled by Weapon X. I haven't really used Weapon X a whole lot, so I don't know if his ceiling is more than 12, but I imagine if you can kind of get that combo of Destroy going, it probably is. But either way, unfortunately, I think I'm going to be passing on Muse because that's not necessarily an archetype that I play a ton, but I am really excited to see what people do. I'm kind of actually, if if Destroy Thanos comes back, I may think about it, because I actually have been really enjoying Thanos here over the past couple of months. I just have really been enjoying Thanos. So if that is an archetype that does come back and is a meta contender, I may consider giving Muse a whirl. So he's probably a hard maybe, depending on what people kind of cook up with him. He is definitely not going to be a day one purchase for me though. That is going to be he's going to float out there, and I will make a decision come that weekend afterwards, just to kind of see, where people kind of end up placing him. But either way, let's move on from Muse. In the final week of the month, week 4, on May 26th, we have the release of Lady Bullseye, and then on May 28th, we have the release of Stick. Lady Bullseye is a 2/2. On reveal, afflict an enemy card with -2 power. Repeat on a different enemy for each of your unspent energy. I really want to like Lady Bullseye. I do. And I mean, so for me, and I've already kind of mentioned, what my favorite decks are. My top 3 decks right now are probably Thanos, High Evo, and Silver Surfer. They're kind of just the ones I keep falling back to when I just want to hop in and finish missions or do things. And I think that she's going to be a really good addition into Lady Bullseye from a theory craft level. I'm kind of starting to reconsider that on an actual practical level, but I definitely want to get my hands on her to try that out. I mean, for me, she's a 2 cost that you're going to throw into essentially the Affliction edition of High Evo, that, running things like Scorpion, Cyclops, trying to cheat out a free Abomination. And I think that's where she's falling. I don't think she fits into the She-Hulk one, because essentially at that point you want to be able to play, I guess you'd float a ton of energy on 5, you'd play her out. You're not going to be able to get your She-Hulk out at that point. I think she's an interesting card because if she would have been around for the heyday of, the 4 cost Star-Lord, Master of the Sun, when you just have a final turn with an insane amount of energy from, playing him on 4, and then 5, you're abs manning and grandmastering. You could play her on turn 6, would have been absolutely insane. But luckily, we don't live in that world. That world is long gone. I guess you could essentially still kind of pull that off with magic, but let's not do that. But in my mind, she's going to fit into high evo. Essentially, you'd want to play her on like turn 3. She's really only going to have 1 unspent energy, so she's going to be doing -4 to the other side of the board. I guess you could essentially wait and hold her till turn 4, and then they'd have 2 floating unspent energy, unless you do have some sort of, I guess, extra energy cheat, like something like Punisher War Machine, or maybe you're running Superior Spider-Man. But essentially, you're playing her on 4. She has 2 extra pips, so she's going to be doing -6 to the other side of the board. In that iteration, I mean, she's kind of doing the same afflict amount that you'd get from Cyclops, but Cyclops is still a little bit more power than she is. But also, Cyclops, you need to have two cards on the other side of the board to get his full effect from playing him on turn 4. But I am a little bit leery over. I think the only reason that at this point I'm not fully all in is because, especially when the original Bullseye released, I think everyone, especially me, was like, oh man, he's just gonna be throwing negative affliction out everywhere, and that really wasn't why he was good. That wasn't his selling point. But we have seen with things like Phantom X anymore that you can't actually do it. It makes a big difference. So I am excited for Lady Bullseye. I'm definitely going to get her. I cannot wait to throw her into stuff like High Evo and to test her out. Especially, we do have ample things to get extra energy in the game. I mean, you could essentially have things like Luna Snow and Punisher War Machine, and then at that point, if you have the Ice Cube out and you manage to pull his effect off, you'd have +2 every turn. And at the end of that point, I mean, it's going to be easy to get some extra hits from her, and then get stuff like free abominations, or maybe you have her in afflict. But I don't think you're running Punisher War Machine and Luna Snow in affliction. But either way, you could cheat stuff out early with her, or you could find ways to get extra energy to make sure that you are pinging a bunch of things on the other side of the board. Excited for her. I cannot wait. My hands on her. I don't know if she's my number 1, but she definitely is up there during this month for me. Moving on to Stick. Stick is a 4/3 on reveal. Give the next card you play power equal to this card's power. I don't like Stick. He's a mix between Maverick and Forge, and just not in a good way. He doesn't have the benefits of Maverick, of being able to hold on to him to buff whatever you want to. And at that point, I guess the only thing he has over Shuri is that Shuri's location locked. So, I mean, you would want to have things in your hand or on the board that you could buff things in your hand and then play him out. I don't think he's better than Maverick. And that's the unfortunate thing is that I don't really see where he fits in, that he's going to be better than any of the cards that are already out there. Fortunately, he is in a limited time game mode, so we don't actually have to use resources on this, except for the most important resource, which is time. But either way, that's all the cards. Let's go do a quick overview. All right, let's run it down the list real quick. I, of course, will be getting the season pass cards. I always say this, but as a content creator, I feel like it is my job to make sure that I at least be actually supporting the game, and by doing that, I will be getting the season pass cards. But on week 1, Karen Paige, passing. Hate to say it. She should be a card that I absolutely love. I played the heck out of Gwenpool and Galacta and all these cards when they released, but I just think anymore Karen Paige does not bring enough to, I guess, the meta that we are currently in to really make it worth the tokens. Next week, I am getting a Punisher War Machine. I'm not passing on cards that generate energy moving forward. I'm recognizing that if a card comes out that is generating energy, I just need to make it at the top of my list and figure it out from there. So definitely getting Punisher and War Machine. Week 3, Muse. Fortunately, passing unless, like I said, asterisk, Destroy Thanos comes back, which at that point I may be back in on Muse, but at this point I'm going to be passing on him. And then, of course, on week 4, we've got Lady Bullseye, who I definitely will be getting just because I want to toy around with her in High Evo. And that's where I sit. That is my plan for the month. Who you getting? Are you excited for this month? I know a lot of people were really excited for this month, but I'm not, I'm really not. I think that the June month is probably where I'm at. There looks like some really, really strong cards in June. Um, but I'm not feeling this month a whole lot, and hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe I'm gonna be wrong, and this month is gonna be an absolute banger with a bunch of super strong cards once we get our hands on them. But I just think there are a few cards here that I want. For the most of them, I'm just kind of like, I'll save my tokens for June, I guess. But overall, I guess, yeah, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts on the month is. Let me know who you are most excited for. And as always, thank you so much for watching my videos. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button for more of my content. And I'll see you guys all in the next one.